Hey everyone, how's it going? So seems to be a theme here lately with Hyundais and people running them out of oil. So I have here a Hyundai, I don't even know what year this thing is, Hyundai Sonata.
Probably a 2011, 2012, let's see. Does it say?
2011. It's a 2011 Hyundai Sonata. And it got towed in. Customer said they think they need an alternator because it died on the road. Okay. Well, I tried to start it, and it makes a clunking noise, like clunk, like a hard engagement of the starter. Not a click, like the solenoid's bad. More of a clunk, like the starter's trying to engage, but it can't do anything. And you can almost feel the car jerk slightly, meaning it's engaging into the engine, but the engine's locked up. At least that's what I think. So I have a jumper pack out here just in case, and we're going to check the oil. So let's do that first. I could set you up to watch this. All right, so here's the stick. Pull it out, wipe it off. And there we go. Quite low, and it looks like mud. It doesn't even feel like oil anymore. Perfect. All right, so on to the next thing. Let's hook up our booster pack here. Always make sure which is negative, which is positive. Although on these type of booster packs, if you hook them up backwards, they tell you. So it's showing that it's at 12 volts and it says start. So maybe the battery was weak enough to where it wouldn't allow it to start. Let's see. I got the key in my pocket. Can you hear it? Yeah. Sorry, wee-woo's going by. So yeah, the engine's locked up. So according to the odometer on this, it has 167,000 miles on it. It was due for an oil change at 155,000 back in April. Judging by the quality of that oil that's on the very end of the dipstick, yeah, I agree that this thing has locked the motor up. So I'm pretty confident that that sticker is correct. I got to check this thing in. Customer's never been here before. More wee-woos. More wee-woos. Okay. Hope everybody's okay. Yeah, so what I'm going to probably do is let me check this vehicle in, get it in our system, and then I may actually scan this thing and just to see what codes are set. Be interesting if it has that knock sensor code. But yeah, let me do that. Let me see what's going on. All right. All right, so that customer towed the car out of there. And she blew a cork with me. She was not happy, like as if it was my fault. And I basically told her, I said, well, here's the thing. You're 15,000 miles overdue for an oil change. There's barely any oil on the stick. And she says, but I change my oil, and I check my oil constantly. I said, well, according to the sticker, it's 15,000 miles overdue. And she said, well, I knew I had to get it done. She goes, but I didn't think it was going to be that much of a problem. I said, well, also, there's almost no oil on the stick. So she says, yeah, I have to add oil. Okay. Well, if you know you have to add oil, why are you not checking your oil more often? Like, that makes no sense to me. But she was mad at me because I told her, you're going to need an engine. And she said, well, I have a warranty. Okay. One of those aftermarket warranties. I said, okay. I said, do you have receipts for oil changes? Dead silence. No. Why not? Well, because it's been probably 9 months since I had my last oil change. Oh, okay. I said, and what about the time before that? Well, the time before that was quite a long time ago. I said, okay. I said, well, here's the thing. going to let me in or not. I said, here's the thing. I said, you got to be able to provide proof that you've maintained your car. Well, what if I did it myself? Okay, well, you got receipts to show that you changed your oil yourself? Well, no. I said, okay, well, there you go. I said, but here's the thing. If you're adamant that you changed your oil yourself, what'll happen is they're going to want to come and have us take the valve cover off so they can inspect the inside of the engine. I said, are you confident enough for that? So she says, what do you mean, am I confident enough for that? I said, because what happens is, if they say that it's not covered, you now have to pay us for taking it apart. Well, how much is that going to cost? I said, I have no idea. I said, but it's going to get into our time dealing with your insurance company, our time to disassemble your car, our time to deal with the adjuster when the adjuster shows up. I said, because they're not going to cover it. I said, I'm telling you that right now. But if you're willing to take a chance, because if you're telling me you changed your oil yourself, then sure, why not? You know, but if they look in there, are they going to see that it's all sludged up because you haven't changed the oil? Well, how much is an engine going to cost me if I got to pay for it out of pocket? I said, I can work up an estimate, but I can tell you that you're not going to get away with anything less than maybe $4 to $5 grand for a used engine. For a used engine! She's like screaming at me. I'm like, yeah. I'm just going to tow it out of there. Okay. So, it's like, here we go. What's more expensive? An engine or an oil change? If you ask me, an engine's a lot more expensive than an oil change. An engine's way more expensive than checking your oil. I don't get why it's so difficult for people to check their oil. It blows my mind. Oh, and then she said, oh, the oil light never came on. I said, did you know the oil light, when that comes on, that means you have no oil pressure in your engine? That's when the oil light comes on. What does that mean? Well, your engine requires oil pressure to stay alive. You know, that's kind of like your heart, how it pumps your blood throughout your entire body. I said, that's what your engine's oil pump does. It pumps the lifeblood throughout the engine. I said, so when you run it out of engine oil, it's as if your heart stops. Think about it that way. So now you have nothing pumping because there is nothing to pump. It's like, let's say you bled out. You're not going to live very long, are you? I'm just going to tow it out of there. Okay. So, yeah, got to tow it out. So, just every single day I'm amazed. Maybe I should stop being amazed and just say this is every single day. Whatever. I didn't create the problem. I'm just there to try to help you fix your problem. That's it. All right. Well, I hope you got something out of that. Check your oil. All right, guys. If you're getting something out of my videos, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, have a great day, and keep wrenching.